Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Keys to AWS Optimization, where today we'll be diving into some of the awesome reInvent announcements that came out. Just a high-level discussion, kind of giving you a showcase of all the different bits. And then next year, we're going to be diving into these a little bit deeper with some of the PMs. So make sure you subscribe wherever you're watching so you don't catch those videos, you don't miss those videos. But Savannah, let's kick off with our classic question. Have you had a frugal week or a splurgy week? Obviously, we had reInvent, but yeah, how's it bring it to that?
I mean, I don't think reInvent week was particularly frugal because everything in Vegas costs like $50. Like I go to Starbucks and it's like 10 times more expensive than it usually is because it's Vegas. But this week's been, I would say, very frugal because I've been sick. So
Oh
I'm just
no,
sitting on my couch.
just
Classic post
the
reInvent flu. You know how it goes. How about you,
exactly.
Steph?
I feel like it's been pretty frugal. I've just been snacking on a bunch of my reInvent swag that I've got because I got a lot of snacks when I go. I feel like I go for that Thursday day where everyone gets rid of their leftover stuff and I'm just like, give it to me. Well, let's do it now so we don't forget.
And
Oh,
M&M store, you got some new
yeah,
M&M flavors
I love
this
that
year,
M&M.
so
I did. For those who know me, love M&M. I know I love M&Ms. I got some cookies and cream M&Ms. Some, get this, holiday roasted peanut and honey roasted peanut. Two different flavors. Who knew?
have
I
you
still
tried
love
them both?
M&M.
Is there a difference?
No, I
Oh.
haven't tried them. I'm so bad at like buying all this stuff to have it, and then I take ages to actually try it. But yes, we'll get into this. I'll give you a review next year when you guys follow us back. So as a good kind of call out, this is our last episode of the year, but we should be back next year. And we will, like I said, be diving into a bunch of stuff, but we're having a bit of a seasonal break so we can all enjoy the kind of holidays. Eddie Edit said that holiday shopping season. So yeah, it's become splurgy with that. That's a good point, actually. I have become splurgy with all of my Christmas presents I'm buying semi last minute, but yes.
I'm behind the times. I'm gonna have a not very frugal week next week when I realize that Christmas is so close.
Yes, it's coming up. But let's get into today's show. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch, a senior SA advocate here to help you on your FinOps journey. Savannah?
My name is Savannah Jensen, and I am a senior FinOps cloud architect on the Optics team.
Amazing. So yeah, as we said, we're going to go through, I think it's probably about 8 of the announcements that we've done today, just to give you guys an overarching view of them. We'll make sure you have some resources, there's some videos to watch, there's some blogs to read so that you can dive into these a little bit deeper. But we've obviously got the first one we want to touch on, which is in the title, bit of a headliner, which, I mean, Savannah, how do you feel about this release of database savings plans?
Steph, I'm having a ball. I think we found out like slightly before everybody else, and I felt like my blood was carbonated. I was so excited. I was like vibrating when I found out that we were finally doing this. So I'm beyond stoked. How about you?
I mean, this has been a conversation since I was a customer. I remember the day savings plans came out, and
Vividly.
vivid, because everyone kept telling me about it, and I was like, I know. And everyone, when I was a customer, was like, have you heard of this thing? And they were like, it's just compute. And I was like, that's fine. And then the assumption
So
was that
exciting.
database would come eventually, and then lots of discussions, customer was asking for it. It felt like the day would never come. And then, like you said, yeah, when we heard about it internally a little bit earlier, we were like, wait, is this a rumor? Is this a real
Is this
thing
real?
happening? And it was like a secret that we couldn't talk about. Yeah, anything it's hard for people to keep a secret. It was, and it was like, especially because I do forums like this all the time. It's like, you can't say a word.
Yeah.
But it's also the only secret I knew. I feel like I know nothing else. But yes.
Yeah, I feel like it was almost like a double secret too, because as you mentioned, when I first heard it, I was like, is this a rumor? Because we've had a lot of like starts and stops with this internally. Because initially when compute came out, everybody was like, oh, database is coming super fast. And then it wasn't coming. And then like maybe it was. So like when we found out it was actually going to be released, we were like, is this real? We're excited if it is.
So if you missed it, it was at the very end of Matt Garman's summary of announcements. I'm not sure how many he did, but it's quite a lot of announcements he covered in his keynote. It was like I think it was like a 10-minute timer you had to go through, and it was the last one that got in there, which is that we are having database savings plans. So why does this matter? Obviously, savings plans released, like we said, 2019, it was when they came out, this flexible compute savings that we had, and we have now created the one for this. So it gives you about 35% discount, depending on what you're buying, on different resources, and it has that flexibility. So it covers 9 different AWS databases, which is Aurora, MySQL Postgres, RDS across the engines, Dynamo, Elasticache, Volkey only, not Redis, just on that one, DocumentDB, Neptune, Keyspace, TimeStream, and Database Migration Service. Those things. Covers a lot.
Yeah, I think like my biggest shock about it was like more than I expected, because I think when we had initially thought that database savings plans were coming, it was going to be like, okay, in my mind, it was just going to be within RDS. And it's a lot more than just RDS. Like there's so much flexibility here, and it's great. I mean, only having to manage one commit for all of those different services, and only having to manage it at the dollar per hour level rather than the instance level, with sometimes without instance flexibility for some of the other ones, if you think about it. Like that's huge. That's so great.
Yeah, and it does depend, and I will encourage you to go watch the link that we put in the chat to go and see the discussion on it. But it does depend on what service. So like serverless deployments versus provision versus DynamoDB, they all kind of cover different savings amounts. So you have to just be mindful of that. But with, I believe, all savings plans, buy them centrally, and then they'll get applied to the best benefit wherever those things are, and that's the judge of, like, the Amazon decides that in terms of the process we have behind. Or you can also obviously buy in linked accounts to apply it to resources. But it is very, very cool. Lots of nuance with these things. Even like I said, the bulky thing for Elasticache, make sure you go and read these things and check. One of the big things is and correct me if I'm wrong, Savannah, it's only for the newest instance types, right?
Correct. Yes. So right now it's 1 year only, and it's only for a certain generation up. So
yes,
those are, I think, two key pieces of information that are important to keep in mind, especially when you're scoping out what you'd like to purchase or understanding how these are going to mix with your current fleet. So we expect that if you have like an existing RI fleet for some of these services on some of the older generation instances, you would have both in parallel as you migrate and upgrade, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a nice incentive as well, because often, now it depends obviously on instance by instance, the newer instances often have a cheaper than the older ones, depending, not always, just that's like a kind of overarching statement. But it is a good thing.
Performance is better.
Thank you, yeah.
But sometimes the performance leads that to kind of make more sense if you right size after you upgrade.
Exactly. So it really does encourage customers like you guys to migrate up to the newest type and then review, are you using the right capacity? But the good thing about savings plans is that you're not locked in, so you can change those instance sizes so that you can benefit from it. So it is really encouraging to go up. But the tip is that what I found, I went into my account and I went straight to SPA and I clicked on RDS and I was like, all right, let me see these savings plans, and nothing showed up, because none of my instances were on the newest generation. So I had to go and do that extra step. So if you see in your accounts, you're like, where's my recommendations? Or if you get too excited, because I almost just went and bought one, assuming that I had newer instances, and then I used the SBA and realized I didn't, make sure you go and validate this data before you buy your commitments, because otherwise you will be paying for something you cannot see. But yeah, some people are saying nice in the comments, which I love. So yeah, but that is the big one of these. So key takeaway, go and check what you have, but it's so exciting. Start to use this benefit. And it's fun. Any tips on like moving from RIs? Is it letting them play out and then kind of transitioning over?
Yeah, how I would anticipate that this will be handled by kind of most customers who have these fleets is hopefully you're already thinking about modernization and kind of adopting some of those newer generation instances. This is now something you can kind of add to that mix. Whereas before, if you were moving from a prior generation to a newer generation, you had to think about how to kind of time that in conjunction with your RI fleet, and purchasing basically like a new set of RIs, hopefully after you right sized, to move that along forward. I would say that now you still have to think about essentially when those RIs are coming off the books, but you do have a lot more flexibility once you modernize because they're not at a size specific level. There's a lot more flexibility within the savings plan mechanism after you do that conversion. And as we've talked about with compute savings plans quite often, like you can build kind of a layer cake, as we call it, with those add-on commitments and be a lot more flexible with that scale up without having to know how many boxes on racks you need specifically.
Yeah, cool. Brilliant. Right, before we move on to our kind of connected next announcement, we did have a question, which is, wait, what was the best swag you guys got? Do you want to get yours and I get mine?
Yes.
We both disappear off camera very briefly. All right, Savannah, you go first.
I got pillows.
That is a good one. Like that is quite
They're actually
a unique one.
really comfortable too.
I
was nervous in TSA because I had to like ratchet these down so that they'd fit in my suitcase. And I was like, if they search my bag and like unbuckle this, it's gonna like, and then I'm gonna have to deal with that in the Las Vegas airport. But fortunately, TSA did not have anything to say about my pillows. So
that is so funny. And then mine, it's very good. Mine was just funny because I got them on the day and the first day in the expo, and I didn't see where I got them from, and I didn't see them since. And it's a pair of Crocs. Just they're too big
just
for
like
me.
regular.
Yeah. They're regular Crocs, official like branded Crocs. No branding of the third party. If anyone knows what the third party is, I just didn't think. I was just distracted by the Crocs. These are too big, so my other half is for them. And I also did get a lot of Croc pins for my pair, but it was one of those things where it was just like I just couldn't believe they were giving out Crocs, and so I just took them because, as everyone knows, I collect a lot of swag, and I'll show you my big
swag connoisseur over there.
This was my swag haul for this year. It's not too bad. Like some of the cool stuff in here. So that's what the inspiration to get this much swag. But I limited myself, and that's what I still came back with a full extra bag of swag.
I'm laughing at the chat. Did you just take a random pair of Crocs?
I just stole someone's Crocs.
Steph just stole someone's Crocs.
Imagine. They had many boxes of them, but clearly they went out very quickly because I did not see them again since. But let's move on to our next announcement.
I have one more thing to say about why DB savings plans are so exciting.
Yeah, go for it.
And this maybe comes from like residual trauma from working in support when compute savings plans launched. But the really, really great thing for FinOps practitioners about this announcement is they've launched with all of our recommendations tools already. So you can go use Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer to scope out your DB savings plans. Like all of those Rex tools that you know and love are available for this new offering. That was not true for compute savings plans. And it was a really, really rough couple of weeks as we were trying to like figure out what that meant as we caught up with the tools. But with this launch, it's all basically working exactly how you want it to out of the box, and you can go play around and use those tools now to understand how to add these to your fleet and how to build that layer cake if that's something that you're interested in.
Brilliant.
So,
yeah, get into those. It's that exactly, and it shows the kind of evolution of how the teams think about these resources coming out. It's there, and it shows as well, like feedback wise, we work very closely with the product teams, and I'll throw this up there now. If you have any feedback you want to send to us via us cost optimization at amazon.com, feel free to send us an email if you have any feedback or thoughts about the show. But that is a direct line to those product teams, and they listen and they've taken this on board, and they really do fight to get customers what they ask for. So I always encourage you to either go through that email or speak to your account teams to provide feedback about what you would want, and they've listened and they've made sure that these kind of announcements are in the tools that are being showcased. But speaking of kind of commitments, things like that, so do you want to go into our next announcement?
Yes, absolutely. So this is another thing that customers have been asking for seemingly for years and years, and it is more granularity in how RIs and savings plans share, and more configurability in how they can kind of apply to your usage. So we talk a lot about purchasing these things in either the payer account or in a shell account, and just kind of letting them spread across the entire organization. With a savings plan, that is going to get you the biggest cost benefit, but that's not always kind of the right move for cost allocation, especially if you have multiple business units within your organization who have differing levels of understanding of what they're committing to and can be more sure about what they're committing to. I've also seen this pop up a lot with any customer in a regulated industry where somebody purchases a savings plan or an RI and they want to make sure that it benefits just their subset of accounts and kind of stays within that ring fence. As of reInvent this year, we now have a way to do that and to kind of configure savings plan and RI bucketing and sharing priority, which is super, super exciting. Steph, I know you've heard about this, but haven't seen it yet. Do you want to pull up your account and we can walk through how to find it?
Yeah, definitely. And this is, we talked about this before and I haven't had a chance. And so I was like, you should try and find it in the console. So come on a journey with me as we try and find how to do this in the console. So this is my payer account. I'm in here. Okay. First assumption, go to the billing and cost management. I assume it's somewhere in here.
You're 1 for 1, Steph. You're doing great.
Okay. So let me think. If I was a savings plan sharing option, where would I be? Become the recommendation. I would maybe go to cost management preferences.
You're close.
Is it not this one?
But it's not that one.
Okay. Damn it.
It's billing preferences. So it's the same place that if you think back to like the two pane list of like exclude this account from sharing, include this account from sharing for RIs and credits, that's historically lived in this menu. So it lives in the same menu.
Okay. Yeah. So billing preferences, and we're going down. We got credit sharing, and we have this sharing. No. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And I can edit it.
Yep.
Where'd it go?
Oh, wait.
No. Not that one.
Definitely
so wait, this
don't
is
want
different.
to deactivate this.
Oh, this is credit sharing. So there's 2 different boxes here. So credit sharing is just for if I got credit to your organization gets credit and you want to include this. That's interesting. I didn't know that was there. So that's also cool.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. It used to be all on and off, and now it's more granular.
Okay. So open sharing with all accounts.
Can you scroll up just a hair? Perfect. Okay. Sorry, I couldn't see the top. Yeah. So you go to the RI and savings plan discount sharing preference, which is the same place that it's been previously. You have to click edit and then it will pop down this box for you. And it lets you use open sharing, which is essentially the new term for what we've historically had, which is share with all accounts, make sure that if it's a savings plan, it's applied to the highest discount first. RIs just kind of spread out based on what was metered first. And then we now have the ability to do prioritized group sharing and restricted sharing. So what this means is prioritized group sharing essentially allows you to set a cost category where you can make sure that that group of accounts gets the RI and savings plan benefits first. And then restricted group sharing is keep the RI and savings plans only within that group. Do not give it to anybody else.
Okay. So open sharing, old way, it's just the best benefit the person gets. Prioritized sharing is, hey, focus on these tagged resources first and then go everywhere else. And then restricted is only if you have that tag, do you get the...
So not tag, but cost category. So
cost category, sorry.
Yes. So there's a...
That's what happens when you click on it.
Just so you can see. Does give you a pretty robust warning that basically says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Especially for restricted group sharing, because it has a higher chance theoretically of giving you underutilization if you click it by accident. Things to know about the cost category. I think this is something that kind of confused me initially when I was playing with it in my payer account. It is account based. So the only kind of cost category that you can use is a cost category that only leverages account ID. So if you've got cost categories that essentially have basically like a mix of account and tag and charge type, et cetera, it's not going to show up in that menu. It'll only show up in that menu if the cost category only leverages account ID You can also configure a new one and then essentially use that. That's honestly what I would recommend, is to configure a new cost category that's just for that RI and savings plan sharing, because that'll make it really easy to kind of troubleshoot if you do have any questions about how that is looking or what is getting the priority and what isn't. The other thing to note is you can toggle these options within month and essentially see how your savings benefit looks when you flip it to either prioritized or restricted sharing. And then if you don't like it in a certain way, or if you only want to do it for a month, it's going to take whatever configuration you have on UTC midnight on the last day of the billing month when that bill closes. So you can kind of test it out within month and not have to worry about how that's going to change things. You can test it and take a look at it and then iterate and see if that's what you actually want.
Yeah. So looking into this, the tag that you saw on my setup, someone's done in the account. We have that it's just this account is able to get the benefit of this resource. So, and at the moment, it works with like an all or nothing situation, right? So you have to have all of it, and it's not per commitment. It's just all the commitments.
Correct. Correct. And if that is something that you would like to see us build next, or if there's a specific use case that you as a customer like want to figure out how to think about this around, absolutely use that cost optimization at amazon.com email address. I will stress, like, this is a very new feature. We expect to iterate on it and kind of fine tune it to what is going to benefit the most customer set. So absolutely share that feedback. That helps us shape where it's going.
And it's interesting here as you revert, but I'm just reverting back. You can get an estimate of what these. So you get some estimates from it, but it can show you the difference. So try using that pricing calculator. I think with a lot of these changes, like Savannah said, try things and actually review the data. Don't just be like, oh, that makes sense, and do something drastic, because like you said, these can have big impacts, especially that restricted one, on your utilization. So you must be careful with these things. Which is a good
but
point.
Also, like, there are very valid use cases where we want to do that and where I've seen customers want to do that. Like, if I think back to essentially restricted sharing, so only sharing within certain groups, like, customers have been mocking that up forever by essentially deactivating sharing for all other accounts and just creating like a small list. This is just a much easier way to manage it and do it. So if that is something that you've been kind of maintaining diligently to make sure that your savings plans and RIs behave in a certain way, absolutely check out this new feature, because it's a lot simpler to do this than to have to kind of go in there and cross-check every time.
Brilliant. There's also a question, if you know, are there any ways to pull recommendations for these sharing groups?
Yep. Already included in those recommendations tools. So
perfect.
Works just how you want it to. Yep.
Just love
just
it.
how you want it to. We love that when we do that.
Yeah. I need to see who I'll update my one. Right. Okay, let's continue on. So just kind of a good segue actually, which is into those recommendation tools, is there have been some new features in the recommendation tools that we want to showcase in here as well. So the first one is going to be our efficiency tracking. So we've now introduced a way to see how efficient your spend is. We see a lot of this with third-party companies, and it's nice to see the kind of central teams building this out too. So this efficiency metric. So how are we doing? We have a lot of this when it comes to unit economics. People have their own version, but this at least gives you a starting point to look at your efficiency metric. So it makes benchmarking a little bit easier. There's less work for you guys to do to come up with this metric yourself. It refreshes daily, and you can have an organization-wide view. So if you central FinOps folks, you could do it. I love this comment. I'm not lazy, I'm efficient. So true. That's how I try and live my life. So this is a great way for you to start reviewing your spend. So it will look across all of your types of recommendations. So idle resource cleanup, commitment that I've spoken about, and then show you what percentage of your spend is inefficient. So it's a more proportional way of doing it. So when it comes to talking to things like C-suite people, you can say, how are we doing efficiency-wise in comparison to other accounts? The reason why this is quite cool as well is it takes into account like the entire amount of spend, rather than it being just so for example, if I'm spending $1 million in my account and I have $10,000 worth of waste, proportionally, that's very different to if I have $100 worth of spend and $90 worth of waste. So you want to try and focus in on that comparison between the two. But what are yours? I'll bring this up for a kind of quick showcase, but have any thoughts on this announcement for
yeah. I mean, customers have been asking variations of this question all the time. I think, like, especially on the optics team, we get a lot of questions of like, how am I doing in regards to other customers? I know what my opportunities are, but like, what does that look like in terms of overall efficiency? Give me some sort of score that I can benchmark. And we help customers create KPIs that are custom for themselves all the time. We also have, of course, the KPI dashboard within the Cloud Intelligence dashboard suite that gives you a little bit kind of more idea of how you can think about that. What's really exciting about this feature, and I think especially for the FinOps professionals in the room, is AWS is doing the calculation here. So if you've ever had a conversation with your developers where you give them KPIs and they say, well, you came up with these, like, how did you come up with these? Like, this one doesn't apply to me because I don't have the same footprint as this other team and you guys are not calculating it correctly. Sometimes that can kind of go down a rabbit hole of how teams are feeling about the metrics that you've created. This one allows you to basically say, hey, this is the metric that AWS has created that is applicable to the entire customer set. Like, this is where you are benchmarked against other AWS customers. This is essentially your score. There's not a lot of kind of arguing or pushback that they can do when it's coming straight from a tool. And it gives you a pretty consistent thing to kind of track over time and essentially see how things are improving or not improving at the account set or at the account level, at the payer account level, at kind of whatever slice and dice way you want to look at it. So I think that's going to be really powerful and really exciting for people to do or to look at. And if you're newer to KPIs as well, it's an easy start of just, okay, let's trend this overall efficiency metric over the next 6 months and then see if there's more granularity that we need.
Yeah. And as well, folks, if you're joining us kind of partway through, we're going through some of the reInvent announcements because we're kind of at the halfway point. Someone said I can barely spell KPI with the amount of checking. And this is great because, again, it gives you a starting point. The question of, like you said, about people comparing, like, oh, it's my account, people don't understand my thing. That is always going to be a conversation to be had. And in that case, it's like, okay, well then, if anyone ever comes back at you with those kind of questions, my advice is always, well, ask what does matter. Like, what metrics do they have access to? Can we combine this data with some other kind of unit information or have a comparison where it's a bit more obvious, or just start to, if you ever get conflict with that, this is a good starting point. This could be good for the FinOps team to track and kind of prioritize and also show your work. Like, if you have bought savings plans, you can now showcase that effort easier, that impact easier. If you have spoken to teams about removing idle resources, then you can say, okay, that's good. So please bear that in mind. But I'll show you now where it is in the console and how to get this. Oh, go on.
Trend it over time if you have a team that's coming back and saying that they have some sort of exception, right? Like, there are a lot of very valid reasons to over provision instances if it's for a peak event or if you're doing testing, or like name one of the list of 100. But I'm not necessarily looking at the absolute value in that case if the team does have a very valid reason for doing that. But we can look at the change and say, okay, we know that you're over provisioning and that a lot of these are going to show up as idle. That's totally okay. But let's also clean up things that we don't need and work on these other optimization things. We'll still see that metric change and through time as you do those cleanup steps.
Definitely. And someone said in the chat where it is in the console. Let's have a look and I'll show you where it is.
Let's take a peek.
So I'm actually going to go straight from here. And the fastest way to get to it in Cost Optimization Hub is from this savings box. I think people miss that as a way to kind of jump in from the home screen. And then this will take you straight to the hub. And here is your efficiency metric. So this is where it kind of comes in to showcase potential spend, overall spend, and the metrics. So you can kind of see from this where this calculation has come from. So I have my potential savings and my total optimized spend in my account. I think it will be good for us when we dive into this, maybe with the PMs, to kind of explain more about where this comes from. But it looks at the resources that fall into the categories and then include the potential kind of savings that you've made on it. So this is just for my singular account. in this case. So I can see this is my normal donut graph, but we've now got this. I've also zoomed in a lot so you guys can see this better. But here is my efficiency metric. So I can see this and overall efficiency against 100%. So if I click on info in here, so this is the calculation. So also when people say, where does this come from? You literally have the calculation. And I think that's also one thing I see with a lot of companies that have efficiency metrics is they don't share this well. And so people fight back because they're like, well, where's it come from? What's happening? It's just a percentage on the screen. What percentage is it? Now, at least you can see where this comes from. And it is a very simple calculation. So you pop that back. You can change it to overall or least efficient accounts, most efficient accounts. Oh yeah, my central account. Yeah, so I can see it across different accounts and see how they're doing.
I'm loving the least efficient accounts section. That was my first thing to look at when I was exploring this in my customer's account. I was like, all right, who's on the top of the naughty list? We got to take a look.
So what does it do? So if I'm on most efficient, then it's going to put this account is at top. So this account, this is my FinOps account, so it should be at 100% efficient.
That's good. That's good. That's what we hope to see. You can like mouse over it and see what's driving each score. So that, what is it? The second one, that's where we had that spike in efficiency at the beginning of November. Yeah. Maybe he deleted a bunch of resources and then spun them back up and didn't use them. I don't know.
I see.
Just a theory. But you can like see it split by which account is doing what and really dig into kind of those trends a little bit better.
And it reorders them as well. Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
So it's reordering. So now you can see it's simple in mine because I have 3 accounts. So now the order is this one's at the bottom. So you can see who those bad outliers are. Or again, if you have 100 accounts, this is a quick way to be like, let me just see who's at the top, and you're doing stack ranking and comparing against each other. You can do that. Change that granularity to see over time, and also do a different look back so you can check. I think it's 30 days that you can have
30 days rolling, I believe.
Rolling. Okay. So yeah, this is a good way to kind of get, and then you have all the normal recommendations you can go and see. But I'm in my org account, so this is how I can see that just ranking from in here. So it's a good way to kind of look at these things. You can also find specific accounts. You could change it to also regions. If you want to compare against regions, then feel free to do that. But yeah, I think because also what's interesting is, like I was talking about, so the account here is this top account is my optimized account. And so based on the resources I have, there is I think this is something to be careful of in that this is my potential savings and this is my potential optimized spend. So I haven't got that much going on, but it proportionally is the same to my bigger account. And so there is actually more savings to be had in this account. And so if you have to separate these two kind of concepts of like, where can I save the most money and how is my account performing based on this efficiency metric? So there's two different conversations. And so when I went in and saw this, I was like, wait, this account has got way more savings to be made, but I'm like, yeah, proportionally it's doing slightly better than the other one. So it is really mindful of what good looks like in these things. So make sure you check these. And then we've had a good kind of comment in the chat that I'll bring up now, which is knowing where to save money can be a metric for prioritization, perhaps. Yes, exactly. So it's a good view as well.
Absolutely. I think like within Cost Optimization Hub too, that's how I have historically been looking at it, like before this metric came out, because we have the ability to basically like filter down a little bit if you're looking for a certain account set, or if you want to exclude savings plan recommendations and see all the things that your developers should be doing. And then when you go into that recommendation details page, it will stack rank it based on kind of dollars per opportunity. You can download that data into S3 through the export and then kind of toggle it and play with it and prioritize that way. And that's how I've recommended that customers get started if they don't know how to get started or like where to start, because a lot of those are quick cleanup.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, let's move on to our next one, which is automation. So this is great because it showcases where we are moving to in the world of optimization, which is I've had a lot of conversations with the product teams about this. We're moving into automation. So we started off in Compute Optimizer with EBS automation. It covers 2 different concepts. So it's deleting and upgrading. So when we delete, we look for unattached volumes that are showing as idle. So the same criteria you might have seen previously when we look at this recommendation. But what it was doing is you can now take an action to snapshot and delete that volume. The other option is upgrading it. So the GP2 to GP3 conversation and the IO1 to IO2 conversation. So this is following process of doing some of that work for you that FinOps people generally were chasing people down to do, and it's taking it there. You can set up automation to do this kind of on a click of a button. So you can say, hey, I have 100 unattached EBS volumes in this account, snapshot and delete all of them as like a 1-click go, or you can set it up as a rolling feature. So every time a volume falls into this criteria, do this thing for me. Go on.
I just love this feature. And I was going to say, speaking of quick cleanup, what if AWS did the cleanup for you?
Yeah, it's brilliant to see this kind of moving the way. Some things that I will kind of as well remind is that you can do this across regions. You can also target by tags, which I think is really cool. So especially if you want to focus in like dev accounts, that's great. And you also have an organizational view for this as well. So like Savannah said at the very start of this, the stuff that we wanted to do, a lot of these things are built-in features. So we are already kind of thinking ahead and making sure that it covers everything. It's also reversible for, I believe, a year Yes. So if you decide, okay, we're going to snapshot this changer, and then in 6 months' time, someone says, oh, shoot, where's that thing, that EBS? Oh, I needed that. It's like, oh, don't worry, reverse it. So it also shows that it's in a system where they've taken a lot of time to make sure that you're not going to get in trouble with people. It's safeguarding around it.
The other thing that I really appreciate about this feature is how thoughtful they've been about the reporting. You can see that organization aggregated view. You can also see the views within your linked account if you're looking at it from a more developer-focused view. But we can see that savings that is kind of created by these automated actions. It also gives you a very distinct and kind of definite way to trace through which resource IDs are being created or modified by the automated actions, right? So it gives you a very quick and like clear traced path of what's been happening and what that automation is doing that you can trace back through very easily and reverse if necessary. So we've been very conscientious about understanding, okay, what resources are getting created by AWS, which ones are getting spun down, how can I revert if necessary? And they've really thought through kind of the end-to-end process there.
And what I would recommend for this to try it is try it somewhere safe. Try it maybe if you have any kind of sandbox accounts, those are the ones that you're going to want to try it in first of all to get used to this process, try it out. Don't try it in production straight away. I mean, unless you have a really structured team and it's a rarity. But the thing to be mindful of as well is that what this kind of does is it covers up issues where people are doing things like click ops. So they're just manually deploying stuff. Any bugs. I have seen it where customers have a process that they haven't realized that when they're patching instances, it's creating and removing and attaching a volume and it just lives there. So those kind of places where you want to prevent it. What you also have to be careful of is with the drift. So if, for example, it's fixing that your GP3 kind of concept, what that will mean is it might be that your infrastructure as code might say GP2 and your volume might be GP3. So there will be that kind of thing. But if you are, so think about it, it's like if you're spinning up an EC2 and it's always making a GP2 and then moving to GP3, you are kind of covering up the issue. But make sure you're kind of tracking these changes and say like, okay, well, this is happening a lot. Can we go into that account and make the change from the start? So teach these better things and use it as a teaching moment to get people to do it. But yeah, use it. It's meant to be something that it saves you time so that you don't have to go and write your own script to go and manage this and kind of build this. But again, if you have anything you're like, oh, we really want to drive automation, we wish that it did something, then email us costoptimization@amazon.com. Also, if you're looking, I would love to hear people's thoughts on EC2 right sizing automation because I have some and I want to speak to people about it. So on that, if you have got thoughts about this, we created a new, bring it up. a new space in Builder Center. So you often see me at the end of the episode plug Builder Center. So in here, it's like a place you have discussions. So you can kind of join this space. It's brand new. And like, for example, in here, we're having like an automation thing. Someone's already replied to me. And it's like, we're having a discussion about a topic. So you can post your own topics in there. So if you're like, I want to talk about how amazing database savings plans are, or how much I love Keys database optimization, then you can drop those in. I would love that. And if someone did that, I would make my day. So it's really funny. But yeah, so go in here. I'll drop the link in the chat to make sure that people are seeing this, but you can go into spaces, and there's spaces for lots of different discussion. If you want to just join the reInvent discussion, you can also see that in there. We also had a question, I'll bring this up, which is, are database savings plan discount applied at the account level? Will you be able to track discount applied at instance resource level?
Yeah. So the sharing functionality that we showed a little bit earlier will control essentially how that application is done. If you have it set on open sharing, it will default to kind of the prior behavior of it'll apply to the account that it lives in first. And then from there, they will apply to what's going to give you the most cost benefit. Will you be able, wait, pull it back up.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. Will you be able to track the discounts applied at the instance resource level? Yes, so you can do that in the cost and usage report. The data structure for these is going to be the same as compute savings plans, roughly. Obviously, the product name will be different, but you'll still have that savings plan covered usage and savings plan negation, and you can trace those down to the resource ID level within the cost and usage report. We do also have a workshop that we have kind of created so that you can do some of that cost allocation a little bit better if you want to be a little fancier with it, or if you're looking for something specific. And I'll put that in the chat right now. All of these, or Steph can put it in the chat right now.
We'll get it in the chat.
I don't have chat access right now. Funky. Okay. But that workshop is going to give you basically a query library that you can use to look at what instances are consuming kind of which savings plan IDs and kind of aggregate that or allocate that if you'd like to do it in a specific way.
Perfect. All right, I've dropped those in the chat. Right, we have about 15 minutes left, so we will kind of jump through this. We're not going to do a demo of the EBS one because we want to do a deep dive into it with the PM next year. So like I said earlier, subscribe and we'll make sure that we grab these things.
One tiny thing on that, and we'll get it straight from the PM next year during that like longer, more extended demo. If you are a FinOps person who's working out of the payer account and trying to take some actions on behalf of the entire organization, the kind of like permissions functionality in that is a little bit interesting in that you have to have your linked account IDs essentially control whether or not you can do that and give you a thumbs up. So just make sure that you read the documentation closely when looking at kind of the permissions part, because that can definitely get a little confusing if you think that something is going to go take an action and then are trying to understand why it didn't.
Okay, love. So let's bring up the next one. The next one, another optimization one, is idle resource recommendations. So we kind of followed on from some idle ones for EBS, but we have a new one, which is idle NAT gateways, which is very cool. So these are when we see a NAT gateway that is running, but doesn't have any data kind of transferred through it. So we classify it as idle. This is just another one to add to the criteria. If you haven't seen it, go and check out your idle recommendations. They are in Compute Optimizer. This is one that I had on my list for the team to kind of go and build this for us, because it is something that can be left out. And we, if you are interested in more, someone said idle NAT gateways are a sin. That's funny.
They are.
If you are interested in learning a little bit more about some alternates for NAT gateway management, I'm going to throw up this session. This is one of my reInvent sessions I did with Kenneth. Have a look at this. I'll drop the video link in the chat, but this is going to be showing you some options of like advanced networking configuration for NAT gateway. So just as like a connected topic. But yeah, go and check out your idle resources in Compute Optimizer. It will be a great way to save some of that dollar.
We get so many questions about optimizing in like the data transfer and networking space. So really excited to see this, as I think it's like our first foray into some of those detection mechanisms that is a little bit more user-friendly and a good way to start. So
yeah, which is awesome. On to the next ones. These are a little bit more like billing focused. So Sab, there's a couple that oh, actually, before we move on, there's another question we had. Let me bring this up. Does database savings plan apply to a particular hour granularity? For example, Aurora serverless runs 40 minutes for the hour for the highest discount. Does the rest of 20 minutes of the hour go for regular on-demand Aurora apply to savings plans?
I believe so, but I would have to read through the documentation a little bit more closely. That is how I expect it would work, but I think we will have a section that details essentially some like what if scenarios like this, and I don't want to give you like a firm yes without reviewing that, but that is my understanding.
If Richard could, our lovely chat mod Richard could have a little look and see if he can find any documentation on this and share that. Otherwise, if we don't reply to you within the show, Cloud Asher, please email costoptimization@amazon.com. We'll clarify that rather than you watch us Google for the next 20 minutes. Brilliant. So yeah, some billing announcements. Or Richard says he doesn't think it exists at the moment. So I tell you what, if you want to share that as feedback, please email us and we'll kind of connect you back to the product team. That would be great, Cloud Asher. I appreciate if you do that. Sab, take us through some of the billing announcements you wanted to talk about.
Yes. So there are two exciting ones. One is transfer billing, which is essentially a way to centrally manage multiple payer accounts, payments through a single payer account. So it's essentially the reverse of invoice configuration. If you think about invoice configuration, we're essentially taking one payer's invoice and splitting it into multiple invoices so you can manage kind of multiple lines of business with their own invoice. Transfer billing takes a payer's bill and transfers it to another payer account. This was initially developed for AWS partners. So if you are managing the billing of a different account on their behalf, you can now do that centrally through one organization and not have to worry about kind of logging into all of them. Really exciting feature. This is something that folks have been asking for quite a long time, especially people in that partner ecosystem. Ability to really centralize and simplify a lot of those payment processes so that you don't have to be managing a large volume of invoices and a large volume of payer accounts. You can really simplify that quite quickly. That is available within the billing preferences section as well in the console. So definitely take a look at it if that's something that's interesting to you. And then the other one that is like a silent hit, I feel, or like one of the like really impactful launches that you don't think about unless you're in it every day or if you're in AP, is automated e-invoicing delivery. So we saw it very briefly when Steph was scrolling through the RI and SP sharing section, but essentially this provides a way for AWS to automatically deliver your invoices to a third-party invoicing software. So think like Ariba, Coupa, any of those kind of payment portals. Historically, we would deliver the invoice to you. Either our AR team or somebody on your side would have to upload those invoices into the payment portal in order to remit against them. This e-invoicing integration essentially sends those invoices directly into those payment portals. So as soon as that invoice posts, it will show up exactly where it needs to show up in order for you to remit. It's faster, it's easier, and it's just exactly how you want it to work. I feel like that's the theme of this year, is like it just works how you want it to work, which is great.
That is awesome.
If you live in the AP side of the world, definitely check it out. It's a sleeper hit. Sorry, Steph, go on.
No, I love that. This is very much your world in terms of the billing kind of concerns that people have, and so it's cool that these are getting addressed, because there's also different. We see this in FinOps. There's different sides to the people who do FinOps work, and so you have people who are like caring about cost and tracking and stuff like that, but you also have the logistical, like procurement and management of paying the bills, and so it's good to see there's a wide spread of announcements that cover these different personas as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Was there another one as well you wanted to cover?
Those are the two payment related ones.
ODTR?
Oh yeah, so that's more Cur focused.
Okay,
we
cool.
can move on to our little Cur segment.
Yeah, little Kerr segment of the session.
Yes, we've got two exciting Kerr launches as well. One of them was a little bit like pre-reInvent. It's like almost outside of the window for a reInvent launch, but that is ODCR ID available in the cost and usage report. So if you've managed ODCRs for your organization before, you know about those unused box charges and how we want to make sure that those do not occur, because that means somebody isn't using an ODCR. What the ODCR ID incur function does, it's available in Kerr 2.0, is it allows you to see where your ODCR IDs are being used, which historically we couldn't do. This is super, super exciting and super powerful if you have a large ODCR fleet and you want to see which EC2 instances are actually using those ODCRs. Because if you've got essentially like a centrally managed commitment fleet and you're distributing that to your different business units, you may want to trace exactly who is using what and make sure that the instance that they're using on that ODCR is perhaps optimized, being used, not idle. And this new connection and new data richness allows you to basically like connect that entire chain and see not only that your ODCRs are being used, but that the instances that are using them are being used properly, which is great news.
Nice. This is good. Another window into that kind of data, the ODCR world. Yeah, this is really, really cool. And the fact that it's, again, like you said, it's bringing this in. This is the theme of getting things where you want them, that you can now see this data in a simple way. But again, reminder, if you, this is in Kerr 2.0, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is yet another reason to move to Kerr 2.0, folks. If people, I know that I've seen some of the data and people are even net new kind of creating Kerr 2.0 because it's the new default. But if you're still on Kerr legacy, kind of use these incentives to migrate and start to move across and get that back full of data so that you can actually take advantage of this new columns, which is really cool. Brilliant. With that, we're on our very last announcement. And so this is, like we said, a whistle-stop tour of a bunch of the ones that we've chosen to talk about today. There's obviously, God, I don't know how many announcements there were at reInvent. We will share a blog in a minute as well of a summary of a bunch of these with some more resources. I also be releasing a blog probably in the new year, which covers other kind of domain areas that have announcements that connect to FinOps. So make sure that you follow me wherever you are or follow this channel so that you can see those. But the last one is Focus 1.2 has been announced in 2 data exports. So this actually brings in 14 new columns, which is pretty cool for Focus. So you have a couple of pain points it's kind of dealing with are that invoice reconsolidation, capacity reservation that we just spoke about, and SaaS integration. The note is that 1.2 is not backwards compatible with 1.0, so the row counts change. So just migrate and be aware of these kind of changes. I think just always look at what the change is going to be, make sure that you are doing it. But I think with these kind of announcements, these things are growing regularly. So it's a good time to think about what are your gradual kind of update efforts with these kind of data sets so that you can keep track of them, and probably spend a little bit of time thinking, do we need to have this data? What is the pipeline to create to get these new versions so that it's not every single time a headache? And again, Focus is mainly for multi-cloud customers. So if you're just on AWS, then Kerr 2.0 is one you really need. But Focus is going to be great for those multi-cloud people to kind of see the bridge across lots of different things.
Absolutely.
Ryan, that is all of our announcements. So big call to action is maybe just pick one of the things you've seen in the session and go have a little look, investigate it, read the links that we have shared. We'll make sure that we share all of the links for this. And there's a lot to kind of take in, but just have a go. If you have any questions, reach out to us. But yeah, make sure that you're tuned in for next year. I can't believe next year soon to follow along for some of the deep dives. But yeah, Fabs, any before I kind of wrap up with our summary, anything else you want to hit on these announcements?
Yeah, it's not necessarily focused on these announcements specifically, but I think another thing to look out for, if you think back to last year, we had some December and January launches as well, because not everything makes it in time for reInvent. Sometimes there's a little bit of delay there, right? So I would definitely keep an eye on the space and see if you get any early or late Christmas presents in terms of functionality too, because we will, and honestly do every year across all services, sometimes see some of the things that we had initially aimed for reInvent hitting December and Jan. So think about that.
Keep an eye out. Yeah, keep an eye out. I mean, the best things to do as well is follow us on things like LinkedIn or Builder Studio so that you can see if we share any kind of these announcements. On that, let's do our Secret Richard summary. So Richard is not AI, but he listened to our show and comes up with a summary for each episode. So you can always scroll to the end of the episodes to see what it is. Let's bring it up. reInvent was a bonanza for swag and announcements. My favorite time of year. Database savings plans are a real life thing. No, really, take them seriously. Benchmarking made easy with cost efficiency metric and automate those responses. It begins with the amazing world when it comes to this automation. Like we said earlier, though, any questions? I really am interested now about people's thoughts on automation. So please jump into this chat and drop your notes in here, or tell others to try and drop their notes in here. I'm excited to go look at what this comment is because I haven't seen it yet. But that is in the chat, or follow me on Builder Space to see that. Also, generally follow me on the Builder Studio place so you can scan this QR code or look for my Steph Gooch. This is where we summarize all the episodes we post of this show. So you can see our little Brady Bunch summary episode from reInvent and lots of different, and the other shows that I stream. I put summaries on here too. So make sure you check that out and follow on there. And if you want to see any of the amazing stuff our team does, join the Customer Acceleration team linked in. This is a great place to see not only what the optics team put out, but also the other teams in our kind of department. They create great solutions and sources and repos and workshops and all these amazing things. So go and join that. With that is the end of the show. That is the end of the year. I can't believe it's been a year of another year of episodes. I think we've got 4 years in the pipeline for this series. Next year will be 5. That is insane. I need to figure out how many episodes we've done because I don't actually know that data point, because we don't always do like a set amount. It's a lot. I need to go and maybe use AI to do this to figure out how many episodes I've had.
It's certainly in the hundreds, right?
No, I don't know, because it's 4 years.
I feel like it must be.
I guess because it's 52 weeks, but I don't stream 52 weeks of the year. So it must be like 100 and something. Maybe episode 200 we'll do like a thing. Let me know, email me. What do we do for episode? I've shared this email so much today. Costoptimization.com. What should we do? Give me some shout out for some ideas of what we should do for our 200th episode if we haven't already reached that milestone.
It'd be funny if this one was 200 and we just didn't know.
Yeah, and I had no idea. It's like egg on my face. With that, we would say goodbye. Enjoy the holidays, folks, in wherever you are, and enjoy the new year. And we will see you back here in 2026 to continue our FinOps journey. Bye for now.